Hey guys, this upcoming video is too long. I'll tell you that right up front. It is, I've addressed a number of issues, some of the recently asked questions. I spent a little time providing a little bit more detail about those. Plenty of drama for those of you that like it, but I do want to tell you up front, it takes me a little while to lay the foundation before I get to the actual meat of the video, the meat of the story. And if you make it all the way through, great, I appreciate it. Down towards the very end, there are several things I think you'd enjoy, or will clarify some recent videos, or comment about some of the comments that I've received. But you got to watch all the way through to get to them. Anyway, hope you enjoy, and I hope this video actually blesses somebody, helps somebody out that's been struggling with the same issues that I have for the past couple of years, and how I've responded and how I've dealt with it. Try to keep my chin up where you can see my little braid, you know. Anyway, enjoy. Let me know what you think. Hey guys, so y'all want some drama? I'll tell you about a little drama. I've been thinking about whether or not to do this little video for quite some time, and I finally decided to share it with you, hoping that maybe my experience can help somebody else out. So I've been in business one way or another since I was a teenager. Started off with a small engine shop, fixing lawnmowers, mowing yards, doing anything I could do to make a buck. All of it above board, none of it illegal. Everything that I can sleep good with at night. And all the way through high school, I worked jobs after school. I wasn't into video games, wasn't out playing, skateboarding, doing any of that stuff. It was work for me. And I'm not complaining. I feel very blessed to have been taught good work ethics. Fast forward a few years, joined the volunteer fire department, spent a couple years doing that, got my EMT license, got my paramedic license, worked as a medic for 20 years, raised my kids through all of that. But all through that, I always had a second job. As a paramedic, I worked 24 hours on, 48 hours off, unless I was working 2 or 3 jobs. At one point, I had 5 jobs on an ambulance, 2 24-hour shifts, and then 3 services I worked part-time for. So there's times when I would do a 24. I get off, I drive to the next county over, do another 24, and then I might go do a 12-hour shift somewhere. So in 72 hours, I might have 12 hours off. My busiest week ever, out of a 7-day week, there was 16 hours that I was not on the clock. And that'll make an old man out of you. But I'm thankful that I had to work. It kept food on the table for the kids, wife, you know, did what I had to. So a lot of times I had, in the way of possessions, equipment, vehicles, whatever, never crazy stuff like Corvettes or anything crazy, but you know, most of it work related. But often I had more stuff visually than some of the people that I associated with. And I'm not running them down or putting them down in any way. I just, because of the type of work I was in, construction mostly as my side job, once I got burnt out on working so many ambulance service shifts, I had a lot of stuff, you know, backhoes, dozers, dump trucks, tool vans full of stuff. Had 6 crews at one point, 30 guys working. I was blessed. My wife and I worked really, really hard to have what we had. We wanted to set an example for our kids of having a good work ethic, of earning what you have. And I'd always heard about how if you appear to be leaving people that you associate with behind financially, a lot of them will turn on you. I never really thought that I would have that experience with the group of people that I chose to associate with. There's an old saying that says, show me your 5 best friends and I can show you what you're like. I've always tried to be careful of choosing who my friends were because of that. I try to, in a business sense, associate with people who are hardworking, above board, honest people. And I feel like overall it's paid off really well. Well, a few years back, somebody got me into car hauling. Started off with just some little local stuff with a wedge trailer and a day cab. And I had the day cab for pulling my dozer and stuff around, so it wasn't that big a deal. Was staying inside the state. Started moving some stuff for a company called Title Max. It was basically a title loan shark company, and if you miss a payment, they take your car. So I'd go out to the tow yards and gather the repoed vehicles up and take them to an auction. And decided real quick that was a huge, that was a huge waste of money. But I found out I kind of enjoyed car hauling. And so it went from there and grew into some over-the-road work. Started my own company, got my own authority, went down that whole road, invested all the extra cash I had into that. A month after hitting the road with the truck, blew the engine. It's a big old 3406B Cat, and I didn't have the money to rebuild it. But I was able to sell the truck for enough to pay off the debts that I had against it in the business. Voluntarily revoked my authority, and just kind of shut it down at that point. But I had been bitten, and I knew at that point that I liked car hauling and that at some point I wanted to go over the road. Problem was, I still had kids at home at that point and still had responsibilities, so I was still doing the responsible thing and working a full-time job. I'd hired a driver. I'd take a shift off from the ambulance service and get 5 days. Go and do a 5-day run once in a while. And when the engine blew, I hadn't been on the road long enough to put cash reserves back enough to replace an engine. So like I said, I sold it, closed the doors. But I had inspired some friends of mine in the meantime to start their own business, and they had started out with a little gas burner, 1 ton, and my wedge. Told them when they started, I said, guys, y'all aren't gonna make any money. You're gonna spend everything you make putting that money right back into the gas tank trying to pull this with a gas burning engine. And they ran about a month and decided that I was right about the math and that it just wasn't feasible. However, at that same point in time, the doors opened for us to get a semi-truck, which if you go back in my videos, towards the beginning, you'll see the Mack single axle and the 6.7 car Kaufman trailer. So I had a friend offer to owner finance that truck for me, and truck and trailer. Well, I didn't have active authority at that point, but my friends did. They still had insurance because it was right at the point they had decided that running their truck over the road just wasn't going to pay. Plus, it was just a 3-car wedge or 3-4, and there's always a serious limitation with that size trailer anyway. So we decided to pool our resources. I got the truck, they had the authority. We went into partnership together. What is it, girl? Huh? Quit. You don't need to be whining at that guy out in the parking lot. Just quit. So we pooled our resources and got the truck. It was in a lot worse shape than we had thought, which is often the case. And so whatever cash we had at that point, we sold some old equipment, did some stuff, come up with some cash, and put all of that into the truck and trailer, getting it ready to go. We hit the road with $740 in our pocket for food, fuel, and repairs. And we made it. We did all the repairs on our own. We didn't pay a dealer or a mechanic to do anything to that truck initially. Now, it was March when we started, so it wasn't long until it reached the temperatures that we had to have working air conditioning. That was the only thing we hadn't been able to fix at that point. So we went to a dealer. We paid him about $300, I think it was, to service the system and get it working. And we ran that truck for about 5 years before we sold it. So during that time, and I'm not going to name any names in this video. I'm just building the foundation for the story so that you guys understand where I'm coming from. During this time, I had made a lot of contacts. Having worked as a paramedic around town, most everybody in town knew me. Like, there's only about 5,800 people in my entire county. And a large portion of those people knew me by name because I had been in a lot of their houses as a paramedic and a lot of their houses as a carpenter or my crew working on it. So my name was fairly well known in my little county. Usually talked about in good terms, but you know, not always. But as the little trucking company grew, we reached 6 trucks. I was working full-time as a paramedic and then dispatching slow service there in that county because it was a small town. So I had quite a bit of time during the day to dispatch. And as we got bigger, I ended up hiring somebody to help me with the dispatching. And we reached a point where we realized that it made sense to have a shop. A couple miles from my house was the big shop that, again, if you go back in the videos, you'll see some pictures of it. Nice big 6,000 square foot, 5-door shop sitting on 8 acres. Nice big gravel parking lot for the shop and a blacktop parking lot for the office building. And we put all the dispatchers in there because by this point we had a number of dispatchers because, as a lot of you guys know, my company dispatches for anybody else, a lot of other companies. Well, once we got that big shop in town, even though we didn't have any more money than we did to start with, it gave the appearance of being well off. Right on the 4-lane highway, going right through the middle of town. Nice big place. We had U-Hauls. If you drive by, it just looked like a well-to-do business, and it had the potential. But we got it really just to do maintenance on our own trucks because we realized that we could hire a mechanic, maintain our trucks cheaper than paying for all the stuff to be done out over the road. And since we had the shop, we decided to go ahead and open it up to the public since there was no other large shop in town. A couple of guys did really good work at their house on the side, but there wasn't any real open to the public 8 to 5 type businesses for semi or automotive. And we provided welding and nearly full service. But I started noticing, overhearing comments about how well off people thought I was, about how much money people thought I had to be able to have a place like that. And I was just renting the building. A lot of people assumed that I owned it. They assumed that I had a lot of money because of that. And I started noticing that I was being treated different. I started having people placing demands and or requests on me for their share of what they thought I had. And these were people that had worked for me, had been well paid. And I have always, even back when I had a construction company, if I think a guy's worth 10 bucks an hour, I'll pay him 11. If I think he's worth 15, I'll pay him 16. I've always tried to be very generous in what I pay a guy. I can't remember ever paying a guy less than what he asked for. I'm not the type of guy to try to Jew you down on your wages, because I don't like being Jewed down. If I tell a guy I'm going to work for 20 bucks an hour, that's what I'm going to work for. So I guess these people thought that since they had worked for me while I was building my business and having success doing so, that they should have a part of that business. And I'm not talking about immediate family. I'm talking about just acquaintances, friends that I had hired in the community. About 2.5 years ago, I started noticing, I guess I need to pause here, and if you guys don't realize it, there's a reason that you don't hear foul language on this channel. As a Christian, and I'm unashamedly a Christian, you don't hear me openly talking about it a lot in my videos. But as far as the principles by which I choose to live my life, they're all based on biblical standards to the best of my understanding. The way I treat people, the way that I do business with people, and I have always tried to do that. I've always tried to have the exact same standards no matter who I'm dealing with, based on principle. Because when you base your decisions on principle rather than on emotion and feelings, you're going to do the same things the same way every time. Situations can be different, but the way that you respond to it, the way that you react to it, the way that you resolve issues, it's going to be the same way every time. And that doesn't mean that as a human that I don't make mistakes. I do. Anybody that knows me knows I make mistakes. But I started noticing that my wife and I both were being attacked more, not physically, but in things people were saying about us, mostly behind our backs. Sometimes directly to us and financial demands that were placed on us. The reasoning of the person I never could understand. It seemed like the more they made, the more they felt like they were worth, and therefore the more they wanted to place demands on what I paid for them. And if I told them no, they got angry and tried to blame it on me. Tell me how unfair I was being and how just how horrible I was treating them. And it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And it reached a point where people that I had thought were really good, probably lifelong friends, were hearing these things being told about me and spreading them. Pulling back. You could sense it, you could feel it, without ever coming and talking to me directly, saying, hey, this is what I was told. What's true, what's not? Tell me your side. I noticed that people were starting to pull back. People that I had employed were leaving angry. Now, this is very specific circumstances on that. I had a couple drivers that I had hired at different times to drive for me, and they had heavy drug use in their past. To my knowledge, not while they were driving, but it altered their ability to process information. It altered their ability to make it from 2 to 2 equals 4 in a lot of circumstances, and it made it to where their reasoning was really skewed. So as time went on with both of these drivers, they would try to control the truck. Now, to a degree, I appreciate a driver who is also a manager, as long as their management style makes sense, as long as the decisions they make produce well, earn the money the truck is capable of earning. But the problem was, it was doing exactly the opposite. And they would get extremely angry with me when I would tell them, no, I'm sorry, that particular decision won't work, lay out the reasons why. And they would get really angry with me. Then they would start making accusations behind my back. And I had this happen with 2 different drivers. And those drivers started contacting my friends, people at least that I had thought were my friends, telling them stories, telling them all kinds of lies that I have paper proof to disprove. I have, documentation that shows exactly the opposite. They would tell people that I hadn't paid them. They've been paid every dime they worked for. They would tell people all kinds of stuff like that. Out of this entire time, out of my entire group of friends, one person came to me and said, hey, this is what I'm hearing, tell me your side. So I told him what was going on. I showed him the documentation to prove it so that it wasn't just my side, so he actually had facts, so that because he was one of these guys that people would go to talk to as well. He's a well liked, well respected elder in our community, in our group. And so when somebody thought something was wrong, they would often go to him and ask his help in setting the wrongs right. Not always, but sometimes. So he often got to hear the other side of the story long before I even knew there was a story. This is the only man out of the entire group of friends that has consistently come to me without twisting anything and saying, hey, here's what I was told, tell me your side of it. And when I would lay it out for him, chronologically, dates, times, figures, facts, paperwork to back up most of what I was able to tell him, he'd say, well, that sounds more like your character, more like the way I know you to deal with things. And since you got the paper documentation to prove whatever the issue happened to be at that point, he said, I understand what's going on here. As I'm sitting here editing this video, I realized that there was one other person that came to me about a family member of theirs who felt that they had been mistreated. And he came at me, unlike the one guy that I've been talking about, he came at me in an accusatory fashion. But once I was able to lay out all the documentation that answered every single question he had, he finally admitted that, yes, I had in fact done everything I said I would do, that I was in fact legally in the right, that I had not done anything wrong, but he still pulled back. Still has called me names behind my back to other people. Known him since he was just a little tiny guy, like 3 years old. And I gotta admit, I was really surprised and hurt at the way he acted in this scenario, because I know he's had other instances where in his professional life where people have tried to take advantage of him, and he stood his ground. He said, no, that's not right. And he paid what was fair. He did what he said he would do. He's generally a very principled guy, but because I didn't give in to the absolute demands of his particular family member, he still holds it against me to this day. And I always thought we used to have a really good friendship, and he was one of the guys I always figured we would be lifelong friends. So the way that he has responded to this whole issue was a real shock to me, a real surprise, especially after showing him the proof and the evidence that I hadn't done the things that I was accused of. Well, I can tell you what I think was going on. I think, as a Christian, that the devil saw my influence at church, my church that I was a regular attendee at, growing. My ability to have a positive impact both in my church family and in my community, growing, and he didn't like it. So the devil started attacking me, and he started using people that I used to think were my friends to do so. People that I had considered friends for years. And still, one man has come to me consistently and asked. One other has come to me at times, as often as not, more accusing than asking. but has consistently taken many things that I've said, completely twisted the English language into something that I don't even recognize as something that I said, and turned around and told me that's what I said. Over and over. It's been a painful lesson to sit back and watch this entire process happening to both my wife and myself. The accusations that were made, believed without a shred of evidence, without even so much as a, well, they've done that kind of thing in the past, so yeah, it's believable this time. Nothing, absolutely nothing like that. Somebody pops up with a story about how badly I've treated somebody. It's amazing how much people look for drama, how much they want to believe bad about somebody. If you don't believe that, just look at the politics. And I'm not getting into politics, but man alive, look how quick somebody on the left or the right wants to believe anything bad they hear about a party on the other side of the aisle. It's just sad. And I've been experiencing that same thing over the past 2.5 years. In the last few months, it's gotten even worse. To the point where some of the people that I used to really believe were good friends, I don't even have any contact with them anymore. They're just gone. Walked away. Without one single time coming and asking me, hey, here's what I told. Here's what I was told. Here's what I heard. Here's what I saw. Can you explain what I saw? You know, not once. Except for that one man who is the epitome of what a Christian is supposed to be like, in the way that he's always treated me. Even when I made mistakes. And he's come to me and pointed them out, asked me about them. But all these other supposed friends suddenly started turning on me as soon as I started showing signs of success. And I was successful, I was growing, I was working hard. When you work hard and you try to work smart, you will usually be successful. And like I said, it was just it's been a rather painful experience to find out who your friends really are. Who wants to step back and try to understand what it is you're saying, rather than jump on it, twist it, and throw it back at you as, well, this is what you said, this is what you meant, and I know it is because right here's what you said in this text. You go back and you look at the text and it's not at all what was said. It's not even, I mean, anybody that understands the English language, it's not even, that doesn't even say what they're accusing you of saying. You know, and then when you have the kind of friend where you constantly call them and you share with them, you share your dreams, your goals, your financial issues, successes, you share all that with them, only to have it just a few months later completely twisted into a ball of spaghetti that you don't even recognize. The numbers they're spitting back at you angrily are numbers you've never even heard before in the context that they're spitting them back at you. And over and over and over again, having people that you thought were your friends just doing this to you. So when this kind of thing happens, you've got a couple choices in life. You can let it get you down. You can let it drag you down into the mud and where you start acting like them. Or when you have the opportunity to try to communicate with them, you can ask them to stop treating you that way, to start having an actual dialogue, an actual discussion, to start completely reading the text you send or listening to the things you say, trying to understand, okay, what is it that Bones is trying to say, rather than a predetermined bias of, well, I think he must mean something bad, and always try to turn it around and spit it back at you as being something bad that you never even thought of. Life has a way of teaching you some cruel lessons. And at some point you just have to say, you know, enough is enough. I got a life to live, and I'm going to live my life. I'm still going to pursue my goals. I'm still going to be there for my family. But if people don't want to be your friends, if they don't want to even put effort into trying to understand you, and then when you call them out on it, they come back all sweet and supportive like, but the next thing you know, they've turned right around and attacked you again. That's not friendship. That's not friendship at all. That's what you call frenemies. And nobody needs that in their life. Life is too short for that kind of drama. So yeah, y'all don't see drama on this YouTube channel, because like I said, I got enough drama going on in my life already to give me all the feel of drama I want. And I want this channel to be positive, supportive. I want it to build other people up. I want it to help other people get into this business, whether it be hauling freight, cars, dead fish, I don't care. CDL driving is a great way to make a living. Guys, if you get online and look, which I did the other day, the average bachelor degree graduate, 4 years of college with a huge amount of college debt, starts off somewhere in the range of about $40,000 to $50,000, depending on what your specialty is. You could be a little bit higher than that, but that's your starting pay. Straight out of CDL school, all 6 weeks of it or whatever. If you, I didn't even go to school, I just challenged the test. But however it is that you go about getting your license, let's say you go and you pay an expensive $6,000 CDL class and get your CDL. You got $6 grand in debt, okay? That's it, $6 grand in debt, and you can make twice as much as a college graduate. Now, I'm not at all telling people don't go to college. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying this is a level playing field. This steering wheel right here, this thing, it's not the least bit racist. It doesn't care what color you are. It doesn't care where you come from. It doesn't care what kind of background you have. It doesn't care what kind of education you have. It gives you the same opportunity as it does the guy parked over there on that side of me and the guy parked over here on this side of me that you might be able to see out this window. We have the same opportunities out here. And there's not enough time in the day to spend bickering and fighting over who said what, who said this. And you know, if people that have known me for the past 40 plus years of my life, and they've seen the way that I consistently, based on principle, deal with people the same way over and over and over and over again, and suddenly they hear a rumor and they go and they spreading it to this person, that person, they're being part of the devil's plan. They are being an agent of Satan. Is basically what it comes down to. Satan is using them to try to tear somebody else down. And like I said, sometimes you just got to move on. People you thought were your friends, you find out they're not. And it can be a very, very painful lesson, especially when they're somebody you thought was your best friend. And then the way they turn around and start treating you, it's anything but that. And you try to talk to them, you try to work it out, you try to ask them to stop treating you that way, try to stop talking to you that way, start having a normal dialogue to resolve an issue instead of trying to find something wrong in everything you say. It wears you down. It gets to the point it's just not worth it anymore, and sometimes you just don't have any choice but to move on in life. And maybe someday if they want to catch up, who knows? Cross that bridge when we get there. But life is too good. It's too positive. There's too many positive things in it. You get out of life what you put into it. And I know sometimes you get your feet knocked out from under you by something totally unexpected. I get that. So I don't have my head in the sand. I'm not blind to that aspect of life. But I have learned, both from my own experience and from watching others who are willing to work as hard as I do, to play to the level that I play to, that you can succeed far beyond your expectations. You take what your parents gave you, if you were fortunate enough to have parents to teach you positive character traits, work ethics, that type of thing, and you build on that, and you can build something far more than most people ever thought you would. Don't listen to those people that are trying to tell you that you never amount to anything. Just don't listen to them. What you're going to amount to is what you choose to work towards. You know, I have a lot of people tell me I'm just too positive. I'm too optimistic. I've got my head in the sand. I don't see the negative side of things. I'm shooting for the moon, and they say there's no way I'll ever get there. Well, you know what? Maybe I won't hit the moon. But here's the thing. All of us are in the valley. I'm going to shoot for the moon. If I don't make it at the moon, but I land on top of the mountain, you're still down here in the valley because you say it's impossible to make it to the moon, so why try? See what I'm saying? So I'm shooting for the moon. And wherever I land between the bottom of the valley and the moon is way better than being in the bottom of the valley. So no, I'm not blind to the negative things in life. I just choose not to focus on them. I choose to focus on the positive. I choose to have a positive attitude towards life because there's so many more positive things about having a positive attitude than there are about having a negative one. If your first, when something bad happens, what goes through your mind? Ask yourself this. You don't have to answer. If you want to, drop a few comments in the video, below this video. It'd actually be kind of cool to see. I'll tell you, for me, when something bad happens, let's say you blow the engine in your car. Two ways of responding. Complete emotional, childish meltdown, cussing, storming around, kicking the window out, just, you know, whatever, be a total idiot. Have a big emotional meltdown. And this is just me, because this is the way I've trained myself to think. And it's a mental choice you make. As soon as I hear that rod start knocking, and I'm saying this because I've been down this road before, more than once. As soon as I hear that rod start knocking, my first thought is, how am I going to solve this situation? And before the car even gets to the side of the road, I'm already processing, where am I going to get an engine? What's it going to cost? How am I going to get it put in? How am I going to work it into my schedule to go get the engine and to put it in myself? Or who am I going to hire to have it done? I'm processing before I ever come to a stop. Now, I may not have it solved by the time I get to a stop, but that's the direction that my mind goes, just because I have chosen to be a positive thinking person in the way that I deal with things. Because life is just far too short to be negative, because by the time that car comes to a stop, I've already got at least the basis of a plan on how to solve it. Whereas the negative guy, by the time the car comes to a stop, they're ready to get out and start kicking the windows in, and sometimes do, and they're already in this big emotional meltdown, and it takes him hours or days to get worked back out of it before they can start trying to solve the problem. So when you look around you at people who are successful in business, how many of them do you know that are negatives? Negative nannies, you know? How many of them do you know that are that way in the way they respond? Now, I know one or two, so I'm not gonna say they're not out there. But by and large, people who are successful in business are positive thinkers. Choose to be a positive thinker in the way you process information. I don't care if it's a broker canceling a load on you, a customer suddenly not available when they said they were going to be. Learn to think solution. Instantly go to solution rather than problem. I've always said, and I've said this before on this channel, there's two kinds of drivers out here. There's problem finders and there's problem solvers. Are you a finder or a solver? I'm a problem solver. You're going to find that if you learn to go immediately to solution and have a positive approach to the way you solve problems, your blood pressure will be lower, your stress level will be lower, your outlook on life will be better. It's just better all the way around. Sorry, I know this has been kind of a long story, and I'm sorry for boring you guys with it, but I thought that if I could share with you how what I have been going through over the last 2.5 years and how I'm processing it, that maybe it would help somebody out there that's also struggling with the same issues. it doesn't have to be the end of the world. It doesn't have to be, yeah, it's going to change your life. The people that you used to be able to hang out with, that you thought were your friends, they're not going to be there for you anymore. You know, when you've got people that you try to do something good for them, and they find something in that to attack you for, they don't like your attitude. They twist, they just, this world is too small a place. Well, let me rephrase that. This world is too large a place to have to be stuck dealing with somebody like that. It's a choice. Get the negativity out of your life. You don't need it. It's not good for you. And it's a toxic relationship when that's the best you can find. Go look somewhere else, because you're too good to be treated that way, and life is too short to tolerate it. I get immediate family. Sometimes you need to make exceptions, case by case basis. But when it's not family, you don't have to put up with it. So it's been a long road. It's not why I'm out here on the road. That was just a financial decision, and it was a dream I'd always had. I got a long bucket list of things that I want to do and experience and try and taste and smell and hear and touch and in this life. And I have been working on that list for a long time, and I've done a lot of them. I got a lot more I want to do. This is one on that list, one that's been on the list for a long time. And I'm telling you guys, this is the easiest job I have ever done in my entire life. And I know I talked about this in a prior video, and I gave you quite a list of things that I've done. I wasn't trying to brag about it. I've just had a full life by choice. I've done so many things that have been just an amazing experience. You know, it's been fantastic. I've been a DJ at a radio station. Got my DJ license. And I don't mean like at a club, little turntables and stuff. That's not that. But the old term for a disc jockey. Of course, I'm a bit older, and when I got that, I was like 17, 18, somewhere in that range. Never really used it much since, but it was a cool experience. I got to be on the air and do the commercials and do all that cool stuff. And you know, I've owned a lawn service, mowed yards for a living. It's pretty good money in that, actually. Owned a decent sized construction company doing state level work, private work, building houses, remodeling houses. Owned a heavy equipment company, cleared land, built driveways, dug basements, all that kind of stuff. I've been a security guard. Didn't really care for that. That's kind of a boring gig. I've been a firefighter, a paramedic. I've been spent 10 years involved in law enforcement. Got to go all the way to advanced level SWAT with the training on that. A lot of other classes surrounding the tactical environment. Thoroughly enjoyed that. That was an honor to work with those guys. Was a coroner for 9 years, processing death scenes, investigating death scenes, deciding whether a person needed to go for an autopsy or if it was just a natural death and expected, or even if it wasn't expected, there was no reason for an autopsy. The autopsy wasn't going to change the outcome. You know, there was no foul play expected. I worked closely with law enforcement on that. Was a CNA for a while, had my CNA license, worked at a nursing home. Of course, truck driver, auto transportation specialist. There you go. I like that one better. I've taught high school classes. I've been a mechanic, been a boat mechanic, done some big truck mechanic work, automotive work. Got my ASE certification in the automotive industry. And there's several other things that I've done. And it's been a great experience. You take all of those experiences and you bring them into one thing, all of that background knowledge, all of that background experience, and whatever direction you go in life, that goes with you. Those are tools in your toolbox, and the bigger your toolbox, the more you can attack, the more you can accomplish, the more you can succeed. So my motto is never turn down the opportunity to learn something new, as long as it's positive. So guys, I am just so over the negativity. And I finally reached a point where I realized it's just time to move on. You know, I'm gonna be nice to everybody. If they call me, as always, I'll talk with them. But I've realized that it's pointless to reach out to them, because I found that when I do, they take what I have said to them, they twist it into something I never even thought, and they either spit it back at me or they spread it to other people. And what's the point? If that's the conflict resolution, that's no resolution at all. It's pointless. So I think time has a way of righting wrongs. The information's there for anybody that actually wants to know the truth. Anybody that actually valued my friendship enough to come ask me what really is the story. One man. One man out of a very large group of people, because I'm a very outgoing person. One man. And that's really sad. On the bright side, I have one friend who I believe I can honestly call a friend, because even when I was making mistakes, man, he would take the time to point them out to me. He was still there as a friend, and he wasn't taking anything I said and twisting it. Not the first time. If he didn't understand, he would say, I'm not sure that I understand what you're saying. Did you mean this? Whereas the rest of the people would like, how could you say whatever? I was like, whoa, I didn't say that. Yes, you did. And it's just, it's not friendship. So that's one reason that I enjoy this channel. It's positive, it's uplifting, it's here to benefit you guys. It's a benefit to me to be able to share. I thoroughly enjoy the positive interaction in the comments, answering questions. Really appreciate, even when somebody doesn't understand. Like the other day, I'll give you an example. And I know I'm rattling on and on and on, and half you guys have probably already turned the video off. But for those of you that are still here, I can't remember his username, so I apologize. But I did a video recently where I was telling you about the broker that was causing problems. Anyway, and the Paperwork Princess, it was a fairly large lot, the sold lot at this auction we went to, but there was no assigned parking anywhere in it. You go to security and they just say it's somewhere in that lot, wherever there's an empty spots where they get put. So she had walked around a little bit trying to find the vehicle, and we were running short on time. So she jumped in another one. I know this is against the rules technically, but drivers do this all the time. If you damage it, you're liable for it. If you don't damage it, you know, whatever. She drove it around until she found the car, because it was a lot faster that way, and I happened to walk up and get in it with her because I thought that was our car. I didn't know what was there to get, because she handles the paperwork. I trust her. She does a great job with it. I'm too busy dealing with other things on a regular basis. She does the dispatching, the routing, customer stuff for this particular truck, and she does fantastic. Got a great work partner. Anyway, while I was talking to you guys, I got in that car and parked it, and I made a comment about not knowing where to put it, and just looking for an empty hole to put it in. And then somebody asked, and I appreciated this, because they didn't attack. They asked a question. That's the way, when you don't understand, that's the way it should be. They asked a question. Hey, did you just randomly park that car somewhere where the next driver that's coming for that car is gonna have to search for it? I appreciated that, because I realized that the way the video laid out, it looked like that's what had happened. Because I just randomly parked it. Because in that particular lot, unlike a lot of others, there was no assigned parking. Now at Mannheim, when you're out in the open lot, and there's some Mannheims, if you guys have ever been to the one in Mount Juliet, Tennessee, or up in Mannheim, Pennsylvania, Dude, you can spend hours walking around looking for a vehicle if it's not where it's supposed to be. And having a ride, now a lot of them have a shuttle service, which is really, really great. And some of them are getting a little more technologically advanced where they have little GPS locators that they will tell you up front don't always work accurately. But when they do, it's super nice because it saves you a lot of time. But I know that there are drivers who will get in those vehicles, drive them till they find theirs, put the one they borrowed in the nearest parking hole, jump in theirs and go. And that is low class, guys. That is low class. Because then the next guy that comes in, he's gonna have to spend who knows how much time trying to find the vehicle they borrowed. I don't have a problem with somebody borrowing a vehicle. I've done it myself. But I always put it back in its assigned spot if there was one, because it's the only courteous, principled way to do business. So I want to say again, thank you for asking that question, because it gave me the opportunity to clarify something that a lot of other people were probably asking and hadn't asked. And I just hadn't realized how it looked on the video. So again, thanks. That's the way you solve an issue. That's the way you find answers. You ask a question. You don't immediately come and attack somebody. And that's the way that my friends have been doing for quite a while now. So there's a lot of them I'm no longer in contact with. I've moved on. Life's far too short to have that kind of negativity in your life. So guys, I want to tell you again, thank you for all the positive comments. Thank you for creating a community where us car haulers or whatever you're hauling can get together and have some positive interaction, questions, answers, build each other up, help each other out in life, and just not be part of the negativity in this world. It's too much of it as there is. Guys, I guess I'm done ranting for now. I know there were several other things that I had thought about that I wanted to say, and maybe I'll throw those in another video. This is already too long as it is. So, more drama for those of you that like drama. I'm not one of them, but I get enough of it. So, thanks guys. I'm signing off, and I'm about to eat this piece of cheesecake that the Paperwork Princess brought me. Isn't she sweet? What she wants to be, she must want something. Maybe I shouldn't eat it. I bet it's gonna be a bribe for something. She'll be like, remember that piece of cheesecake I got you? Yeah. I gotta eat it, it's too good. I can't help myself. See y'all.